Talofa I am Monty Betham. Thank you for choosing Once a Warrior with me today. Well, he was the first of the Anderson brothers who did such a wonderful job for the club. Vincent Anderson, thanks for your time, my man.
Hey, Monty, how are you?
I'm very good. Now, how are you? I mean, where have you just come back from? You're home for good now?
Possibly, yeah. Still weighing up some options in that, but been overseas for 18 years now, wow. The last 10 of which have been in France. Yeah. So yeah, finally looking at making the move back home.
And you were playing just a couple of years ago, player coach, man. I mean, look at that physique. How was that possible, Vincent?
I actually finished playing maybe 3 months ago. Found it hard to give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, every year for the last 15 years probably I've been saying this is the last year, but just found it tough and spoke to a few of the older players and they said, oh, you're better off doing one too many than, not enough. So I just sort of kept going and it's still enjoyed it. So.
Okay, so you played here, you played in England, you also played in France. I mean, just the comparisons, if there's any, being in these different parts of the world.
Weather for starters.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The first season at St Helens was a shock. Turning up there in the middle of winter, icy pitches.
Yeah.
Freezing cold, having to wear skins all the time. The crowds were awesome. Were really awesome. They really get into the game, sing a lot, hang around after the game. I found that really enjoyable.
Well, Vinny, there's no place like home, and that's where it all started for you. So let's take a look back. Vincent, when you watch that back, man, what memories come to mind? I mean, you could play the game.
First of all, man, shout out to whoever dug up those highlights. I thought you'd used them all up when you did the interview with my
brother.
And
not in black and white as well.
Yeah, no, so many good memories, Monts. It was a really special time in my life, playing at the Warriors. We had such a great team, not just talent-wise, but just great people. Yep. There's some great people at the club, and coming to training was so enjoyable. It was something I looked forward to. Bounced out of bed and get to see this player and that player, and we'd train hard, competitive, and had a lot of fun as well.
Absolutely, man. But it was funny because we crossed paths a little bit earlier before 2001 when you came into the system, but we're not too sure how it happened. I mean, I was playing for a reserve grade side, and then you somehow got put into their team. Do you remember what happened then?
Yeah, I remember. I think I was playing at East Coast Bays.
And what grade?
Small club, Senior A competition.
Senior A's.
And I'm not sure how it happened, but you guys were short of players and were playing against Taranaki, and I got a call. I can't even remember who called me, and but I ended up coming down on the bus with you guys and jumped on the wing. You
had not made any rep teams, but you wanted to take a career path or a hunt at it. How did you get found in the game of rugby league? It's
a bit of a unique story, I guess. Growing up, I played league, but I also played union. I played a lot of basketball. I didn't play any rep footy, anything like that. And so after high school, I played a little bit of league at East Coast Bays. I played a couple of years of rugby at East Coast Bays as well. And around that time, I finished my building apprenticeship and sort of felt like I needed a few months to weigh up what I wanted to do in the future, if building was something I wanted to continue long term. So I went to the States with my wife and 2 daughters, and we discussed things and that, and I told her, I think I want to go back to New Zealand and give league a crack, which was kind of funny to her. She knew me as a, basketball player or, rugby player. She hadn't really seen me play much league, but a coach who was at East Coast Bays was at Mount Albert where Ackers was, and we kind of got in touch, and I ended up coming back, and I just wanted to know that I'd tried.
Yeah.
If I didn't make it, I was fine with that. But I wanted to do everything I could, so at least I could say, oh, you know what, I wasn't good enough.
And then what did Ackers do for you then? John Ackland, a wonderful man and coach. What did he do for your career? Did he give you some belief early on?
Yeah, I remember it might have been the first training or early on, we did fitness and we had to run a lap of the field. And he'd come up to me and he said, I want you to win this first one. Yeah. And so I got out in front and I won the first one, and I was pretty tired, it's a long 400 odd metres. And he goes, right, we're going again. He goes, I want you to win the second one. So, I'm giving everything. I didn't know how many we were doing, so there's no pacing myself. I'm just thinking, he's telling me I got to win, so I got to win. We ended up doing maybe 10 of them. And every time he'd come out and say, you got to win this next one, you got to win this next one. And he could see that I was really struggling towards the end. Yeah. And he just came out and said, if you want to have a serious crack at rugby league, you got to be the best every training. Wow. And that really stuck with me. 2001, your dream or your realisation of the dream was coming a little bit closer when you got called into coming through the system. For a guy who didn't know a hell of a lot about the game, what was that like to be in a fully competitive professional environment? I would come and train. I would knock off work. So I was working as a builder, and I'd knock off work in the afternoon and go do a workout at the gym with a couple of the other boys, and then train in the evening with a development squad. Every now and then we get pulled in with the first team, and it was a shock. I realised pretty quickly I was pretty far behind in terms of skills and knowledge about the game, and had a lot of learning to do. So I kind of, right from the start, I thought, man, I'm going to be the first in and the last out, and we'll see how far that gets me. So I go in early and I do weights or cardio, and after training I'd work on basic skills. Just passing once, I didn't know how to pass a ball. I thought I did, but there was technicalities that Daniel was, bringing to the group that I had no idea about. There was one training we did at Ericsson, and we did a bit of left v right. It was just short size stuff, so it might have been 4-on-3 or something. And I got put in with the right edge, and Stace was on the left edge. And I just remember feeling so out of my depth. They scored every time, and I had no idea who I should take. I had no idea about spacing. I didn't know how to communicate. That was a big thing. And I remember after that training just thinking, they're going to tap me on the shoulder and
thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, exactly. But Kempy helped me out on that with the communication and stuff, and he was really good in sort of just a few words here and there between drills or after a training. And both him and Daniel were really good in that. I think they wanted to see us young guys or new guys really develop. They were older than me and they were the coaches, and that sort of as far as it went, but looking back now as an older person myself, and and having coached recently, and that, it's amazing what Daniel and Tony Kemp did for the team. They were really young, but what they brought to the team and the club was really amazing. The stuff that I've learnt, the stuff that I learnt from Daniel and Tony sort of steered me throughout my whole career.
Do you remember getting the tick or signing that dotted line and to become like a full-time athlete? And what was a pretty competitive squad, which just had made the playoffs for the first time in 2001. And then with hindsight, obviously 2002 was one of the best years, the first year in the grand final.
What an amazing year to be at the club. I remember feeling really privileged, to be able to do that as a job. When I got told I was going to debut, I was excited when they told me, and then from that point to the game, I was just nervous, I just didn't want to let anyone down. I never wanted to be the weak link in the team. That was really important to me. I wanted to contribute. And in the change rooms before the game, Campo came up to me, Kevin Campion, and just said, because I was on the bench, and he said, when you come on, doesn't matter what position they put you on at, just get in behind play the ball and have a scoot. It'll get you straight into the game. All the nerves will go. And so I did that. And, he was right. That really helped. But I remember during that game, I think it was Jerry made a little bit of a half break and gave me an offload. Yeah. So I'm in the clear. And, bro, I'm probably in the clear for within 5 meters, I'm looking for support. I don't want to be out here all on my own. And so I gave it to Justin Murphy. And, I remember getting pulled up on that the next week at training. He's like, hey, well, you're in the clear.
You got to have a go.
Yeah.
Who were the guys that took you under the wing or helped you early on in that process? Because you mentioned Campbell early on in your first grade debut, but on the ground in terms of training.
I think everybody chipped in. You know, I feel like we had quite an open group where guys were willing to help. Speaking of Campo, you know, I remember him telling me, I think I might have had an injury, and they said, oh, you got to go get a scan. And he said, what's going on? He came into the physio room. What's going on? Oh, I've got to go get a scan. Don't get a scan.
Yeah.
Oh, why is it? Well, it's never good news. And that was, you know, but that was Campo. You know, he brought that toughness to the team. You know, but everybody helped out. Once Logan helped me a lot. You know, I was playing right centre. He was my right second row, so he would talk to me all through the game, and at training we'd work on stuff, and he talked to me about the off the field aspects of league as well. Helped me out there. Jerry was the same.
Let's go back to, you know, seeing two of the best centres in the world in 2002, which is John Carlo and then Clinton Torpey.
John Carlo was such a great professional. You know, I really enjoyed being around JC. Just the way he conducted himself at training, you know, his attitude, whether he was in the team or not in the team towards the end, you know, he was always there to help out, and he was a really, really nice guy. And as for Torps, I mean, I don't think he gets talked about enough. You know, I mean, he was a gun, a real gun. He was, for me, the best centre in the world during those years, and he doesn't know it, but he was a real inspiration for me as a player. Just the way he carried himself with confidence on 110, you know, always backed himself and was really competitive in whatever he did. And
it was similar to you as well in terms of not just attacking but defensively. He loved to put a shot on, and that's something you did. I remember there'd be many games. I remember the Souths game in the wet, and you'd be beside me when you're playing in the middle in the second row, and you'd be really talking to me like, let's get up and get physical. And he used to love that side, mate. He used to love trying to intimidate the opposition, man, you know, for a good church boy.
Yeah, sometimes I get embarrassed looking back at some of those moments, you know. We probably got a bit carried away with the trash talk and that, but that was part of the game, you know, and that was something we tried to bring, and especially on a day like that when it's wet. You know, what can you do with the ball? Not too much, so let's get in defensively, and we had some good guys to do that with, you know, like yourself, and you know, Jez was always in there, and
2003, I mean, if you think about your game, you just missed one game that year. 27 games in that year. For a guy who didn't know a hell of a lot in the previous years, what clicked? Because, I mean, that was, you know, a very good year from Vinny Anderson.
If I did anything right, it was finding out or figuring out pretty quickly where I fit in the team. You know, we had so much talent. I don't think we needed another person to try and offload or, you know, chip and chase, those sort of things. So I focused more on being a good defender, you know, keeping my missed tackles to a minimum, being a good communicator, pushing in support, trying to play the ball quick, all the little things, you know. That's where I felt like I could contribute, and so that's what I focused on. Me and Henry used to joke a little bit that, you know, the right side did all the donkey work and the left side got all the glory, you know, scored all the tries and that. But, you know, the team has to have some balance, you know, so, and that was something I could do. And, you know, it worked out because I was able to keep my spot, you know, without being the most talented guy in the team.
You're right, because, you know, in training it's always left v right, and left side get all the accolades. The right side over the years didn't get much accolades. And Henry, what was his strengths, and how did you, you know, plot people's downfall?
Yeah, Henry was obviously a really good player and a great guy to play inside of. He'd talk to me the whole game, you know, giving me instructions, you know, let's get up, let's watch out for this, all that sort of stuff. He'd also get in my ear about, you know, Francis has got 2 tries, I haven't scored yet, when are you going to get me the ball? There'd be a bit of that as well.
With your experience now, being, you know, as a coach and played in some really good sides, what was it about that 2002, even 2003 side and year that made it so special? You know, one game off the grand final, losing to the eventual winners, Penrith.
I think a lot of it was to do with the basics. You know, we really worked on the basics at training. I feel like people don't believe me when I say that, because on the game day you'd see all the offloads and, you know, some pretty fantastic tries. But it all came from, you know, completing sets, quick play the balls, you know, good support play, and good defence. You know, we sort of built off that. We learnt to build off that, you know. So I think that was really a key part of our success, learning when to, you know, pulled it in a little bit.
I don't really want to bring it up because it still hurts me. 2003, the prelim final, and we lost, man. What's your memories on that game?
I know Penrith had a really strong team,
Yeah.
but we definitely went in there with all the belief in the world that we were going to win and get through to the final and win that as well. It was a game where just a few things didn't really go right for us. I remember myself getting pretty close to scoring and losing the ball over the line. That would have been the third game in a row in Australia, so that was challenging. I don't think any of us thought of it as being challenging. We're all up for it.
No,
and,
we thought we were fine.
Yeah, but perhaps at the back end of that game, we saw a bit of fatigue, and that those away games catching up on us, and those tough games catching up on us. The game before that against Canberra is one of, if not the toughest game I've played in.
Yeah.
Just the physicality and intensity of it, and it was interesting because I thought only I felt like that, and I spoke to another player, and they brought that up as well. But I remember I think the first carry I had, I got picked up and driven back. And It's on, yeah. I also remember doing video in the week leading up to that game, and we were told if you get in the clear, don't try and run around Clinton Schifofsky as a fullback. Clinton makes a break. Tries to run around him, but I love the confidence, man.
Yeah.
Me, Tommy and Logan pulled off a little move that we'd been working on, and it worked, and that move we did was just a little touch move, that probably everyone knows in that, but they happened to have a defender who slid out, a bit, so that we knew there was going to be a bit of space there if Tommy could play square. And our ability to come through a game like that together,
under the pump, 10-0 down, quite a way
playing
into
in
it.
Australia,
and getting to the final series was amazing. But other games that stuck in your mind?
I remember playing the Roosters over in Sydney, and it been a really close game, and we might have needed a conversion to win, and Brent Webb was kicking, and I wasn't on much money, I was on win bonuses and stuff, so I remember walking up to him as he's getting the tee. Hey, man, power's due, got 2 kids, if you can make this kick. He didn't like it, but he made it, so it's all good.
It was funny like that too, because early on, a lot of the young guys were on win bonuses, right? So when you were signing your 2003 deal, you said it was pretty interesting yourself.
Yeah, well, I didn't know much about all this, the business side of footy and all that. Jerry Susu actually just came and had a chat to me. He had heard that I was in talks with the club, and he just sort of gave me a little bit of advice. And the offer that they made me was a lot less than what I was making as a builder the year before and that. And I had 2 young kids and a family to take care of. I just didn't think I could continue at that sort of money. So I didn't know you could negotiate. So I said, thanks but no thanks, and I'm starting to prepare my goodbyes to the team, and then they came back, and it all sort of worked out. But that was an interesting time. I ended up getting a manager through Webby. He said, man, you need some help. What are you doing? What do you mean you're quitting at the end of the year? I said, I can't, I can't stay for that.
It's not feasible.
No, I can't. He said, no, you need to talk to my manager. So it all ended up getting sorted out in the end.
So he went to you, the manager, and you came back and said, look, no, cool, thanks, I'm gone. And he thought you were just trying to up the price.
Yeah. That just shows my naivety, I guess, with how things worked and that. But yeah, he helped me out and managed to get me a deal where I could stay.
Louis Anderson came along, your brother, 6 years younger than yourself. Did you know he was coming? Was it you that brought him in the door? How did that one unfold in front of your eyes?
I guess the fact that I started a little bit later and he was a gun young, that sort of contributed us to being able to play together. But I remember when he told me that he was going to start coming up and training in that, just, how happy I was to have him around. And I mean, he was really competitive, and tough, probably 2 of the key things you want in a young player coming up. And so, and he absorbed everything that the coaches were teaching him and everything that the older players were willing to pass on to him. We're pretty close, and so to see him progress through his league and then eventually get his debut was awesome, Like I said before, when Campo gave me some advice, it was to get him behind the ruck and have a run early in the game when I came on. Someone must have told him to score a try because he came on and scored a try. Campo should have told me that. Maybe it would have turned out differently. I love playing with him, not just because he's my brother, because he was a great player.
Yeah.
You know, you have him in the back row and you don't have to worry about anything going wrong. He's going to get yards and, you know, he's skillful as well. He talks down that side of his game, but he's a very skillful player as well. When I went to England, he ended up coming to England. And then when he went to France, I went to France. You know, we spent a lot of time together over the last 20 years.
The early 2000s, 3 final series in a row. You played in 2 of those years where the squad was going really well. And then 2004 was a tough year. We're fighting to not be the wooden spooners. I mean, that was pretty tough. Your thoughts on that year?
It was a really tough year, and none of us were used to losing, I don't think, you know. Well, you know, we hadn't lost for a long time, and it was a challenge trying to figure out what was going wrong and how to fix that, because we probably hadn't had to do that for a couple of years. There was a lot of change going on. Obviously, you know, we lost our coach. We started to lose players one by one. Players that were still under contract, even who had long-term contracts, were being, you know, moved along. And so that was really difficult. You know, over the previous years, we'd grown quite close, and it was hard to see your friends moving on. So that's changed things a little bit. At the end of the year, I guess they just, you know, there were still changes to be made, and I ended up going to England.
And then I remember one game in particular, I think it was Father's Day, and there was a few fathers coming into the change rooms. It was against the Canberra Raiders. It was Tony Kemp's first game. Your dad spoke, there was a few other dads that spoke, and we went out against Canberra. That was another game in my mind that I remember a lot at Mount Smart.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when the dads came in, that was powerful. You know, sometimes when you're playing, you get just stuck in the process. You know, you train, you play, and you forget. You know, sometimes, you know, about your family, your parents, or the supporters. You know, the people that are really behind you. You know, you're so focused on your job. So to have, you know, the fathers come in there and talk to us like, well, I mean, I'm representing them. I've got to, you know, to have that reminder. Sometimes there's moments where, you know, you're able to find a little bit more. And I think that moment for us in the change room, you know, enabled us to give a little bit more that game. And for me to have my dad in there was, you know, was pretty special. It meant a lot to him. You know, he loves his footy and that. And so for him to be able to come into the change rooms and actually talk to the players, and that was a big moment for him. And, you know, I know he was very proud of me and my brothers.
Vincent, how would you sum up your time at the Warriors, man?
Too short.
Yeah.
But very rewarding, and you know, one of the most special times of my life. I don't think I was much of a contributor. You know, I was just along for the ride. But to be at the club 2002 and 2003, I think those were 2 pretty awesome years in the history of the club. Fortunate to have been able to play at the Warriors, and in particular with that group of players that we had. We cannot see each other for 5, 10, 15 years. And when we do, it's like no time has passed at all, you know, and that says something special about the time we had together.
Vinny, once a Warrior, always a Warrior, mate. You were one Warrior that I always loved playing alongside, man. Thank you for your service.
Thanks, Monty. Appreciate it.
I'm Monty Betham. Join me next week for more of Once a Warrior.
Anderson, what a sensational pass! Vinny Anderson, off his right foot, he's on his way. Anderson scores. Breaking one. Right to the cup. Vinny Anderson. Here goes Anderson.